I know I believe we have a council member calling in, maybe. Tell me when you're ready. There we go. All right. Hey, Alyssa, can you hear me? Cool.
Sorry, I can hear you.
Sorry, we had
yes.
technical difficulties. Please stand by. Every time. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. Let's call to order Thursday, November 21st, 2024, a work session. We're going to go ahead and do call to order and pledge of allegiance. So, Donnie Bowen, please lead us in pledge of allegiance with your ankle. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. So tonight is a work session, and then at 7, we'll move right into our council meeting. So, this is about communication tonight, talking, asking questions. This is the very first one when it comes to this subject. So, take your time. But, the next thing on our agenda is public comment guidelines. If anybody saw the agenda and has any questions at this time, you can come to the podium. And state your name, your address, and your question. All right. So I don't see any questions at this time. So let's move right into the very first presentation. This is the enhancement to the waterfront amenities. And we have a PowerPoint. We do have a speaker maybe coming in. If not, Lauren and DB, Donnie, and Phil, anybody else can join in. There's some ideas that are going to be presented. Some of it, we already have the funding from DNR. Some we do not, but I'm going to go and turn it over to Councilwoman Keller.
Okay. So Stacy, there should be a PowerPoint. That's never got a PowerPoint. Got to bring your own. Okay, this is the plan.
Send it to Linda. Can you send it to meeting?
Okay. All right. So I'll kick it off. I'm going to speak really slowly and hope our presenter shows up. And if not, I'm going to wing it through a PowerPoint. So this effort was initiated about a little over a year ago, maybe more than a year ago, when Donnie and I got together and we developed a proposal to enhance the recreational kind of opportunities here in the town by enlarging the swim area was one, and to an area where the water's a little deeper and a little bigger, and also creating a small boat launch and storage areas for non-motorized watercraft. I know that's kind of hard to see, but PowerPoint will be up in a sec. We ran our proposal by a small focus group of residents, about 3 or 4 residents, just to get their input. And we also ran it by Phil, waterfront director. Mike, you reviewed it. Stacy, you weighed in a little bit. I think you gave us some good ideas on the ADA stuff that we hadn't had in there initially. We got a pretty tight, we had a PowerPoint with our proposal, and then we called MDE and had them come out on site and DNR as well. And we wanted to make sure that the proposal, what we were thinking about, that it was actually authorizable, that it could be permitted if we were to move forward. And we did hear from MDE that it was authorizable, but they said in order, to get a permit, you're going to have a more detailed plan. So we secured Bayland to develop an engineer stamp plan that was kind of up there on the screen initially. And council, you have hard copies of the plan. Kind of hard to read, but it's also on Bay Docs for those of you out there in the audience. So they came up with a plan, and Bayland hopefully, but they don't see her, but they're going to be here tonight to kind of present the plan. There are options in the plan. There's pros and cons to each option, so we wanted to share that. And, basically, it's just an informational meeting, mostly for council, but also for the residents to just hear if there's any questions, any suggestions. And if there are, we can make changes to the plan, try to finalize it. And then the next stage after that would be to actually apply for a permit. Couple other points that are important. A lot of what's in this plan, I think can be built, I talked to Linda, talked to Donnie and Phil as well, can be built in-house. Things like the platform, and then there's a ramp that goes onto the beach. And there is funding in the budget for this project. It's been in there for 1 or 2 years. So we do have the money to do it if we choose to move forward. And that's the intro. I don't know, Donnie or Phil, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Councilwoman Capler, I think you did a fine job for doing that on the fly.
That wasn't the fly, that was not the fly part.
No.
That's the fly part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, we went out there. Several different options. I think you covered everything.
Okay. All right. I can't see from back there, so. Grab the microphone. Yeah. Okay. This slide shows, the existing pier. There's two, and folks are probably familiar with these, but there's 2 ADA ramps that lead to slips on the north and south side of the pier. You see the arrows pointing to that. There's the swim area, which is, because of wave action and such, it's kind of gotten shallow. And then there's the beach area, the south part of the beach area, which is not ADA accessible. There's no ADA ramp that goes to the beach. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so after looking at kind of like the existing situation, we realized that the pier does have slips. The slips aren't used. The water is shallow. The wind picks up. The waves get really big. It's no one really uses those slips. Boats don't come in there and dock and spend the night, which I guess was the idea, but that's not feasible given the weather. So we're like, what can we do? Can we use some of these slips to kind of utilize them in a better way and create some small boat launches? So we looked around and we came up with some ideas to figure out how can we create a place where we can store kayaks and small boats, canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, but also make it easier to launch them. I don't know if any of you have boats now, but and launch off the beach. But if you try to launch your boat off the beach in the summer, you're dragging your kayak or your canoe through a lot of people, through sand. You're launching maybe into a swim area, maybe on the far north or far south side of the swim area. It's not easy to get your boat into the water in North Beach, which is kind of crazy because we're right hard on the bay. So with this proposal would create a a paddle deck on the north part of the pier and manual small boat launches. And you can see some examples there on the upper left and the lower right. And there's also options to create some boat storage racks on the pier as well. So some of the things we've thrown around is, maybe there'd be, 6 or 7 spots for residents, maybe more, to actually store their boats on the pier. Or there's also options to store it on the beach. But just to make it easier for folks to have their boats near the beach and then get their boats into the water easily. The other part of the plan was to increase the swim area, so that right now, the swim area, most of it is pretty shallow on the north and south sides. So we're talking about increasing the swim area on the south side by actually moving the pilings and the sea nettle net seaward. There'll be some pictures in the next slide that show that. A couple other things we wanted to provide, as I already mentioned, ADA access to the beach. We also wanted to provide vehicle access to the South Beach, because right now when there's storms and logs and things get washed up on the beach, or the, sand gets eroded and we want to move that around, there's no way to get any vehicles onto the beach. So we're talking about adding what we're calling a truck ramp. And then the final part of the plan would to be provide a soft kayak launch on the South Beach. So that would just increase the storage, add some more racks, and just make it a little easier for folks to get down on the beach with their boat, because there'd be some kind of ramp. And then once they could either store their boats there, but they could also just launch right off the beach. Miss anything? Next. Okay, so there's two options. Option one is to make renovations to the pier, to add a paddlecraft launch deck, and also to enlarge the swim area. So if you look at this picture here, and if you look at the north side, the green I wish I had a little pointer, but if you look at, okay. The idea is that we would put the paddle launch on the north side of the pier. You can see the arrow that says remove slips and walkway and replace with the paddlecraft launch. That's the green box on the north side. And on the south side, we would add what we're calling a sun deck. And that's the green box on the south side. As far as making the swim area, all kinds of technology here. Do I just push it? Look at that. It's cool. Okay, so the swim area, right now the pilings are right around here and the sea nettle net. The idea is we would take the pilings out and move the net out to the jetty and connect it to the pier, and that would just create a larger swim area. I'll explain this on the next slide, but the red area marks decking that we would have to remove. And on the north side, if we remove this decking and the stairs, there's no access to the fishing pier. So we would have to add a ramp walkway, which would be right here. Yeah, next slide. Okay, option two. There was some concern expressed that by enlarging the swim area and creating a sun deck, that maybe there's some, liability concerns. You've got deeper water, you've got a swim deck with folks hanging out on the swim deck. Are folks going to try to dive off it into shallow water? This was something that Phil actually was pretty concerned about. So we wanted to just provide two options. So we just basically, this is the same, except we just got rid of the swim deck, enlarging the swim area. But we keep the paddle deck and the paddle launch, and the new ramp to the fishing pier. So nothing to really change in the on the south side of the pier in option two. Okay, the next one. And this is just a image of what it would look like if we were to do the paddlecraft deck and the sun deck. You got the paddlecraft area right here, the manual boat launches. There could be some racks here to store some boats or to some gear, paddles and life jackets. And then the sun deck would be right here. We put the paddlecraft, we thought it would be a good idea to have the paddlecraft deck on the north pier, because it's easy. It's pretty easy to get out to the bay. There's some jetties here that make this a more protected area, so it's calmer when there's some wave action. And there's also this area right here where, say you launch your kayak and you go out and you come back and the wind's picked up, it's gotten a little rough. You can actually, what did we call this, Phil? Emergency landing spot. But if you feel like you couldn't get back in, you could always just land right here on this little beachy area. Okay, next. Okay, now we're going to move into the next section. This is kind of your section, Donnie. This was your baby here. So what's that? Did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So there's let's see how many. There are 4 options for adding a ramp from the boardwalk to the beach, truck ramp. Option 1, be right here. Trying to see what she says about this. ADA accessible. It should be a truck ramp, and it would also be ADA accessible. This is where the pirate ship is, just to give you some perspective. And this is a little finger pier, so you can see it goes from the finger pier almost to the pirate ship. What's that?
Say
Go ahead.
bad, Good, bad, or indifferent. That one location there was picked, and like I say, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, because you could come right from Third Street. And you come right down Third Street, there's an opening already in the flower bed area to where you get to that one. That's why that's option one.
And why did we do, what was the idea with having, option 2 is pretty much in the same space, but it's a little bit of a different way of getting onto the beach.
That was because of the slope, because if you go look at the finger pier there at Third Street, it's pretty high off the existing beach. So if it doesn't quite make ADA, we might have to put a turn to make the ADA compliant height regulation. So it is the same setup. It's just that you'll have that turn and that'll give you a little bit more slope if needed.
Okay. And then option 3, we kind of split up the truck ramp. So we still have the truck ramp here near Third Street, but then we have an ADA ramp over here. And then, so we looked at we actually initially we had these 3 options and we thought they were great. And then Phil looked at this and he was like, you know what, I have a concern with that, with these 3 options, because it's taking up beach space and we don't have a lot of beach. I'm putting words in your mouth, Phil, so correct me if I'm wrong. So he said, can we add a fourth option? And that's right here. And so right here, there would be a truck ramp. Now, in the current design, this is only designed as a truck ramp. I did speak to Bayland and I asked them, and I haven't I heard back from them, but she didn't have time to redo the design. I was like, can you make this a truck ramp and ADA compliant? To make it a ADA accessible ramp as well. So that's not depicted here, but I did ask her to see if she could come up with that option. I mean, it's such a low slope,
Also,
I would think it would be pretty easy.
so there's room to the, if you're looking at the steps to the left, it is very low. So, and also, when you hear truck, it's a gator, it's
Right.
it's a golf cart, it's not a full-blown SUV or big truck. So when we say truck, don't worry, we're not driving trucks on here. It's work vehicles that the waterfront and DPW, like the skid steer, different things of that nature. Actually, Ford will have the least impact because it's right next to the steps.
Right.
And there's no really beach space there for people to sit. And the angle is such that it's all, I mean, I think we're down to 2 steps there now.
Right.
Because of the sand. So that would be simple, easy, quick,
Yeah, that's
and
what.
less impact.
And I did talk to Anna a little bit and Bayland a little bit about this. And sometimes the sand, there's more sand here, there's less sand here. So you would build the ramp so that it actually goes under the sand. So if the sand erodes a little bit, you still have ramp. Go ahead. Do you have something?
This all became necessary because when I first started working here in 2007, we actually could drive the backhoe in front of the pavilion there. We had enough beach. You had about 40 feet or so of beach in front of that pavilion. So we could have access to the south side. Now, with the erosion that happened over the years, we can't drive any equipment in front of that pavilion. So like I said, we have something large over there. That's the need, one of the main needs. And if somebody's in a wheelchair, emergency ambulance type vehicle needs to get them off the beach quick, that beach is kind of isolated now for that.
Next slide. It's really funny when you say next slide, you have no idea what's going to be on it. Okay, so these are just some examples. I had asked Anna to add some examples of some ADA compliant ramps. These are cement. I don't think that's not what we want. We can do this with wood. But the reason she wanted to show us this is because these are the ramps that when there is a lot of erosion, right, they stay, and that you do build them under the sand. But I don't think it's a little overkill for us. Next. Okay. So as I mentioned in my intro, in order to do this, we will have to obtain a permit. So for the changes to the pier, we would have to get an MDE. We would have to get an MDE permit. She does have the Corps of Engineers up there, but that's only if we do the option where we create the swim, we make a larger swim area and we start removing pilings then we would have to get a core permit. And the ramp from the boardwalk, that's super easy. I think we just need a county permit. Next. Okay, before we get to that, can we go back to the slide that shows both options? I think it's like slide 4 or 5. It's got the green boxes and then the red. It shows where we're going to remove part of the, okay. Yeah, that was it. Okay, I just want to explain this a little bit, this little the red area here. So when we met with MDE and we said we wanted to add decking here and decking here, they said that's fine, but if you're going to add square footage to your pier, you need to remove it from somewhere else. And so the option was that if we're going to add, I think it's 30 square feet here, we're going to have to remove 30 square feet here. Now, if we move this decking here, it's the lower part of the pier, then there's no way to get to the fishing pier. And that's why we would have to add this ramp walkway. Same thing for the swim deck. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And we can go to questions. Anything to add? Anything? All right.
So tonight, obviously, this is being presented. Take a look at it, take a look at the documentation. The kayak funding, for the most part, we have from DNR, so and they've been dealing with DNR and all the stuff you have to deal with that. The ramp is pretty simple, easy, straightforward to allow people to continue to get onto the fishing pier area.
Mhm.
We had that. The ramp onto the beach on the south side is pretty easy. That's nothing crazy. The two biggest would be the swim platform, which, in all transparency, I'm not a fan of because it's going to increase our labor and cost to maintain it. And I can see it getting out of control, but it's a team approach here for the town, everybody. And then moving the pylons back, it'd be interesting to see what that would do because, it is tight and we do have increase and we've lost a lot of beach over the years since the last Bay Fest. We have photos of it.
Mm-hmm.
So my part, I feel good about all of it, but I would say I'm a fan of the fourth option.
For the truck ramp, yeah.
And the kayak launch, the ramp on the left, and then looking at expanding the swim area, the swim platform or sunbathing, I'm not at all, only because I'm down there for the last 14 years, and I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze.
Right.
And I would feel sorry for those two sitting over there right now, which is Phil and Emma on the waterfront. But so if, again, ask questions, you have some, if anybody has questions, and then this is not the end of this conversation.
No, just the beginning. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while. It took a long time. There was a lot of meetings, with MD and back and forth with them and getting the plan to a place that we all thought was a pretty good place. So if you don't have any questions now.
I've got a couple
Okay.
questions. First of all, I love this idea. I think it always
Right.
blows my mind how inaccessible the bay is here, considering we live on the bay.
Right.
So I think anything we can do to improve that is good. So relating to a couple things on here. So you mentioned pushing out the swim area to, I guess, the seawall.
Yeah, if we can go back to,
That,
yeah.
what would stop people from basically jumping off of the pier and then just swimming back to the beach? Like,
I mean, they could almost, they couldn't do it now when we put the net up.
Yeah.
But they could do it, if the net wasn't up. And that is a concern that the mayor and Phil, I think you can comment has with that.
So, I mean, right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if you go back to the picture, the image, maybe Donnie, you could just show where you would string the net, because you would think it's easy, but it's not that. You have to think about, where you could connect it and how do you make it a continuous. So maybe you could just.
Yeah.
The new net would come from here and go around into these shorter sections and then kind of fill that gap and then tie it to the beach. Then it would have to go under the pier or underneath down and then back to the old section over there.
Connect to the north.
No, that makes sense. I'm just wondering, like, if we did all that though, like, would somebody stop somebody from jumping off the sun deck and just now suddenly being on the beach?
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
That was a concern is that, especially with the sun deck, is you could have a million signs and you could have someone sitting there, but it is shallow water there. And you know, even if we all decided that was a great idea, I mean, definitely we want to get legit out here and say like, what's the liability here that we're looking at? So,
We really wouldn't be able to control it. We could say we could, but what would people do is walk onto the boardwalk, the pier, go to the sun deck, look around, jump in the water, swim around, and then we catch people, and again, these two could tell you, every single day, jumping the railings, every single day. But at least we have 3 people close enough. If we did that, then we need to hire more staff.
yeah, I mean, I wish we could make it work because it would be nice to have a sun deck, but I don't know, unless someone, you know, we'll have to think about it.
Other one going back, I guess, to the square footage that we
Mhm.
have to remove. Do the finger piers count towards that? Because it looks like there are extra finger piers there we could possibly.
We tried, but it's not wide enough. Anything under, because the finger piers are only 3 feet wide.
Mhm.
When they go out like little boat slip piers, but they go from MDE said that wouldn't count. It has a 6 foot actual width of a pier. So for whatever crazy reason in their mind, and that's a shading thing, because when the sun's up here, it's down on it, it's 3 feet, it can shine underneath of it. When you get to 6 feet, it puts a shadow.
Oh,
You
I see.
can't. So that's their mindset for that. You know, 3 feet wide, the sun will go right underneath of it, won't hurt, it won't cause a shadow of the water underneath of it. But if it's 6 feet wide, the sun gets up and it blocks partial when it gets in certain positions, so you can't.
Okay.
Yeah,
It-
I mean,
it's
because
just
we,
living dynamics to some degree.
we thought, because initially we thought, wow, we can get rid of all the finger piers. We can get rid of some of the decking that's actually under the higher pier and we won't have to do anything. And we tried that and they were like, no.
So more than just square footage, it's also
Yeah,
the other attributes. associated.
right, right.
And then I guess going back to the truck ramp,
Hmm.
with option number 4, that's where we currently check tickets and stuff going out to the beach, right? So if we,
No, the stairs are right there.
Yeah.
It would actually just be to the right of the stairs. So you could actually
Okay.
keep the stairs and the ramp and have 2 options onto the beach.
so from a staffing perspective, it would remain the same. If we move it, if we go to one of the other options, you're gonna need an additional staff member potentially there, or they have to like walk somebody down, I guess, if they need access to that area.
Right.
Difficult to build too because of the height off of the,
Yeah.
elevation of the boardwalk area.
And then when storms come, I mean, you know, we can pretty much lose the entire beach right there. So what would happen to that structure? I mean, it depends on how big the storm is, I guess, where I feel like the 4th option, it's a little more protected and lower profile.
Envisioning the
Yeah.
pirate ship going up the ramp.
I know. Let's
As a-
not, don't envision that because we don't want that happening.
I'll tell you, had many storms since that thing's been built.
Yeah.
And that
It
whole
moves
beach has
around.
been underwater and it has never moved because we've gone down there waiting to see if it's gonna go off into the bay and it's never moved. But option 4 is the least impactful. And
Yeah.
Also, that ramp's only gonna be open when it's needed.
Yeah.
It's not used as a walkway. It's for
Right.
These guys, and then in handicap for we have the wheelchair that Abigail donated, or anybody else, whatever it may be, but that it will be closed. And we do have an attendant sitting right there. So
Right.
It's a pretty good location.
Yeah. Good idea, Phil.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions? From the other 2?
What's the is the elevation of, I'm gonna call it more as the boat platform, the same as the finger piers?
Yes,
Okay, and then if we did the swimming platform, it would also be at that same elevation?
yes.
Trying to minimize the pylons, we're trying to use existing.
Try to use what we can.
Well, I was just trying to figure out, like, how do they treat floating platforms versus hard fixed platforms?
Well, we talked about that, but you know, we looked at some of the footage of the, you know, the wave action down there and we've talked to some floating dock people and it just, they wouldn't survive. Floating dock would be wonderful.
Did we look into, instead of doing hard plank, do sort of like playground equipment where they have like the rubber coated wire mesh? Because that would alleviate the shadow issue probably, because it'd be more open. So, and then we won't necessarily have the floating debris when we get the high water tides. I don't know how MDE would treat that. But sort of like that playground equipment level
Yeah.
grade.
So
plank
instead of
stuff.
using planking, you use,
That more or less playground
mhm.
equipment mesh as a top deck.
Yeah, I wonder if they make I wonder if they make pier material out of that.
great idea. We just need to see if it can handle the bay water because
Yeah.
our benches rust out, all of our equipment, all of our trucks rust out because of that bay. So
Yeah,
we just
and
gotta
it's
make
the
sure.
same thing, like with the lumber, we have a yearly expectancy on when it has to be replaced,
Mhm.
and then float away debris, and it could just be a, okay, this is good for how long, what's its cost point?
Right.
And the cost return on that, and if that gives us a little bit more flexibility with MDE, because we're allowing light to still get through, seeing if they would,
Hmm.
if they would allow it as a wave to let more light through, so we don't pass as much of the shadow. So,
More like the grading that you use at a wastewater treatment plant,
yeah,
have a 1-inch aluminum.
Aluminum, yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
All right, well, we'll explore that, Mickey.
I do want to make sure too,
Let me just
please.
follow up on that. The good thing about using the decking is it's something that we could do here.
Yeah,
And-
it's in-house.
Yeah,
So,
and it's cheaper, I'm guessing.
I'm
But
just-
anyway,
I'm just thinking of.
yeah,
Like in the storms, we always have to replace the decking, especially on the finger piers,
Right.
because we get those swells and it lifts all up. And if it's at the same elevation,
right,
we'll have the same problems.
the
right.
good news,
So-
we almost replaced most of it now.
Yeah.
So now the screws aren't rusted
Yeah.
and we don't have to replace those anymore. So all the new decking we put down.
It survived.
there Survived.
Okay.
It's the ones that were rusted already.
I guess it was just
that broke.
older and then the fasteners.
Do have a resident in the back wants to ask a question.
Bob?
I've seen that decking made out of fiber reinforced plastic. I have seen that decking made out of fiber reinforced plastic, which would get you around the salt erosion problem.
Point.
Thanks.
All
Um,
research, get her done.
Ken, did you have any, or Greg's on, right? Any other questions from council?
No, I think we're sort of coming around to the idea of the sun deck is not a good idea.
Nothing's going to stop me from jumping off the pier. 'Cause
Getting,
I did when I was younger.
and why don't you just go over to the main section of the decking if you want to sun yourself? I mean,
Right.
it's only a couple feet. You don't have to go. far.
Honestly, if I put that there, I'd want to slide. Because I would be the one who would go up and I'd climb a slide in the water, climb up a ladder and slide on slide. So I'd be out there the whole time swimming, just going up and down the slide.
Should have put you on the work
So-
group, Mickey.
Council members work on the
All right.
waterfront.
I mean, so
Y'all haven't worked there for a long time, obviously.
This is-
And that would involve, that's a staff position putting that out there, and I know that, and it's like, if we end up doing anything, if we expand the swim area, we may want to look at, if we expand the swim area, the boat slips on that side, we should just pool, and if we do that, we can rail the whole side.
right.
Which will
Well,
then-
rail the whole pier side, yeah.
That whole bottom side.
Right.
So then it'll be less likely for people to jump off, but if I want to jump, I'm gonna
You're
jump.
going to jump.
How deep is it? It's not deep.
At high tide,
Not, I know now it's like, up to
yeah,
my knee.
at high tide, it's here.
Way out to the deck, 4 feet. About 4 feet. If we extend it out, it would be 4 feet deep. What would it be out there?
No,
You
No,
can
no, it-
cannonball
it-
from the
it's
top
kinda
rail,
deep.
but your butt
It,
hits.
it's deep by the rocks.
Right here?
Yeah, that section between the two is,
Right there.
very deep. Cause it channels between, the two sections, but, it is deeper.
Oh.
It'll be about, inch depth.
Okay.
It would be nice for swimming,
Yes,
you
it would
know?
be nice.
It would be
Yeah,
nice if it was
just,
bigger and deeper. Yeah.
Like, I know it's,
Can we go back to slide 8?
what do you say?
What's that, Greg?
Hi, everyone. Can we go back to slide 8 with the options on it?
Yeah, with the ramp options?
Yes.
Yep. All right, there you go.
All right, and which one did we say we were mostly interested in?
We're mostly interested in option 4 here, Greg.
Perfect. I like that. Okay, so first of all, thanks for doing this. This is really nice. I definitely agree with option 4 on that side of the beach.
Okay.
The sun deck. I think we're all concur on that one. Probably not a wise thing to do. And the lunch, I'm all for it because I, for one, have felt like I don't know how to describe it, but felt very uncomfortable pulling my kayak through people's headboard Bob Harris' house so I could launch it. So not good. So this will definitely help. And I think it'll help a lot of other kayakers as well. So I'm all for that option 4 and for the launch pad. But the one thing I would like to say is if we could go back to slide 7, I think that one will work. Okay, I think we need to put some focus too on trying to replenish this beach because we got lucky this year. But it won't take but 1 or 2 storms and Hatches Corner is gonna be gone. So I think we need to start thinking about funding and putting in a permit with the ANR to try to get some of that sand back up on the beach. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
I do want to add 2 things. Last time we replenished the beach, absolutely. But in 48 hours, a storm came and took it back out. So
Yeah,
what we got.
that's not the norm though. So I mean, some things you can't control, but we at least have to. If we don't try to do something, we're gonna be paying the price even more.
I mean, I will say that we've talked to, I mean, just putting sand here without making any other changes, without creating some kind of living shoreline, without creating some kind of dunes, without changing some of these jetties so they function in a better way and protect our beach better. And we've talked to MDE about this, and Donnie and I've talked about it a lot. We're just kind of wasting our money. So I think it's I mean, we can do it, Greg, and I think we should look into it, but it's going to be a bigger deal than just dumping sand on the beach. So, but there are things we can do to protect our beach in a way that's more effective. And
Right.
it's something that we would have, it could be a project for next year, and we, maybe get a consultant to help us out and come up with some good ideas, kind of like we just did with this. Maybe it's phase 2.
That's what I'm saying. My point is, and I agree, but if we don't do anything and we don't do anything and we just keep letting it go, again, we're not gonna have a beach at all. So
Right.
we
And
have,
actually
we have to try because I'm telling you, we got lucky this year because
Right.
I'm not an environmentalist, but one more big storm, Hatches Corner is gonna be totally gone. Then we're really gonna be saying, oh crap. So we have to do something. And so we gotta start somewhere. So, let's start. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and actually, you just reminded me that I had forgotten about the flood action plan. But do you remember, Donnie and Greg, Bob, you read it as well?
Hmm.
There is a section in the flood action plan that addresses things we can do to better protect the beach. I just
Yeah, I
remember
remember
that.
seeing that. That was some
So maybe
good,
we
some
have a
good
start.
things.
We have a start. Yeah. Okay.
I do want to pass on one more thing. When we do the kayak, 'cause I can tell you all some stories, but when we do this kayak launch on the lower pier, and it's going to be a handicap launch. I mean, there's a lot to it, and to do it, but just so the walkers know that you will not walk through there because we'll be using, we'll have storage there for kayakers. Residents first come, first serve for
Yep.
residents.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. So they'll still be able to walk on one side and come around and walk up.
Right.
But they will not be going down whatever side we put the kayak. That would be blocked off at that one area.
This will be
You
blocked
will
right here.
not go through it. So, which I think is well worth the sacrifice to
Mhm.
be able to do some nice kayak launches.
Mhm.
And also having a handicap kayak launch.
Right.
And it's easy accessible up the pier. The parking's right there. It
Right.
can be done. So just want to pass it on now before we hear it.
And
Secondarily, I know when we built the fishing pier on the lower end and the boat slips, we got a certain type of funding. I want to make sure that if we change this, we're not running afoul of any of the requirements that we had for getting that funding. So it just doing our legwork to.
I mean, we
check
did
our-
meet with the,
Yeah. Okay.
no, that's a good question. We asked DNR that same question.
It's like
Yeah.
an account 2 tied to like slips or
Right.
something. So just making sure we're not running
Right.
afoul of that and getting in trouble for that.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so that's it for now. More to come.
So
Thank
we
you.
all have. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I was just thank you, Lauren. That's all.
Thanks.
So obviously for residents, Board Docs has it all in there. We'll continue to add to it. We'll continue to update. We'll be bringing this back to the council again. We'll bring it back until we come up with a solution, whatever we want to move forward with. I think there's possibilities, and what Greg said, what everybody else said. Let's just keep moving forward. So, all right. All right. So we had two items on the work session was talked about. We moved one to business items on the town council meeting. So this is the end of the work session. And then at 7 o'clock, we will open up the town council meeting. We do have a semi-full agenda, not crazy. So at this time, can I get a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved?
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. Hold tight, everybody. We'll be back in 17.2 minutes.